know these equations. And you're going to see that the equations are all very similar. Every conic section is going to have an x minus h and a y minus k, because that's going to be the center, and then we're going to have other stuff depending on what it is. You shouldn't. I think you did at least an algebra 2. But probably Mr. Corbett, you have a Oh, well, okay, there you go. I'm not. No. Circles are the easiest ones. That's why we start with that. We could spend a lot of time on these conic sections, but I just want you to be able to graph them. I want you to be able to put them in standard form and recognize them. That's about it. So you need to know this equation where r is the radius and the center is at hk. Notice that the formula is x minus h, y minus k. So if h or k were negative, that's going to change that to a plus sign, right? Hopefully, maybe you can remember that. If it's at the origin, it just means h of k is 0, so it looks super nice. X squared plus y squared equals r squared. Circles are not functions, so if you graph a circle, it's never going to pass the vertical line test, which means if you're going to type it in your calculator, you would have to like solve it for y, and you'd have a plus and a minus radical. So you gotta know this, okay? Star it, circle it, something. Well, that's a rectangle-ish. It would be an ellipse, you're right. You know what is more than one ellipse called?
Hyperbola.
Ellipses. Look at this lovely circle. I had this whole background as purple, but that was going to use a whole lot of toner, so I changed it.
Hey, you don't pay for the toners. You don't care.
The copier's terrible, so I kind of didn't look purple.
I wish the background was purple. I know.
Background. Oh, solid fill. Oh.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, read your black. Change the black back to white.
Well, see, I had the writing as white, and then I had to change it.
There we go.
Because then you can see it on the white.
And then make the circle.
Oh my gosh, you guys are making this so much more complicated.
Every slide.
No, this is the only one.
Yeah, I could have sworn that she said purple.
I was just telling you.
Change it back. I don't want that. You like that. You like.
Now I have to. Okay, I'm gonna write in yellow. Maybe you can see that. Write an equation for a circle if the endpoints of the diameter are 2, 8, and 2, negative 2. If I'm writing an equation of a circle, I need the center and I need the radius. How can I find the center if I know the endpoints of the diameter? The midpoint of this would be the center, yes? Who remembers the midpoint formula?
Anybody raise their hand?
No.
Y1 minus y2. X1, Y1.
If you have 2 points, to find the middle of it, you just add the x's and divide by 2, that's half the average, and add the y's and divide by 2. So the midpoint would be, I know, no, that's fine.
I said that. I said we don't need to x.
You're right. Maybe, since this is just a vertical line, we don't even need that. We can just use our range. Like, since this is at 2 and this is at 2, Oliviero says we don't even need the x because it's just going to be at 2, right?
I'm so smart.
How far is it from 8 to negative 2?
10.
And what's half of 10?
6. 5. I did 8 minus 2 in my head.
5. That's a 5 on the L line. So if it's a vertical or a horizontal line, you can just count. If it was a slanted line, let's say the diameter went from like here to here through the center, you can't just count on a slanted line. Like you would actually have to use the midpoint formula. But if it's vertical or horizontal, you can kind of just graph it out and see what it is. But I think that means our center would be at 2, 5. Questions about that? The radius is the distance from the center to the edge of the circle. How could I find that? Distance formula. Who remembers the distance formula? What if it wasn't a vertical line? We have to make sure we know how to do it if it wasn't vertical.
What are we trying to find out here?
Like the distance from here to here, or the distance from here to here.
It's 5. Second circle.
Again, because it's a vertical line, we could just say from 8 to 5, or from 5 to...
Why is it 5? It's 5 units. See, it was 5. You were wrong. It's 3.
I think my radius is wrong.
It's 2, 3. No, your radius is 2, 3. Percentage 2, 3. Center is 2, 3. And the radius is 5. I knew I was right. You said, what's 10?
Oh, I'm back.
You said 10 divided by 2, and then it was 5, and you wrote 5 instead of putting down 5 units. You know? See what you did there?
Oh, yeah.
What?
Okay, so I gotta change. Okay. 8 to negative 2 is 10 divided by 2 is 5 units, and I just wrote 5 there, but I really just need to say, like, I need to go 5 from 8, right?
So,
With me on that?
I was so confused on why the radius was.
That's what I did the formula like
I was like,
3
what the
times.
heck?
I was like, why is it not working?
You just have to tell me. Dang it, I have to quit doing this.
Stop making this.
Stop making mistakes and this wouldn't happen.
Makes it easy.
It's the color, the background color, that's what it is. It's throwing me all off. Formula, alright, look, whatever, I'm just writing this down. The distance formula is really where we get the formula for magnitude of a vector. It's where we get the formula for the radius of triangles. But it's just, you take the square root of squaring the difference of the x's plus squaring the difference of the y's. But again, if it's a vertical line and you can do the math right, unlike what I did, you can just count from 3 to 8. Whew, I'd say the radius is coming. This is way more complicated than it's supposed to be. I wanted to give you the distance and midpoint formula in case you need it at some point. But you're right, on this one, if you can count right, unlike me, you don't need it. Then you just write the equation. So you would say y, you can do y first if you want, but I'm going to say x minus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 5 squared, which is 25. Please do not write 5 squared as your answer. I circle it, it annoys me. 25, yes. Minus 1, because you can tell me what 5 squared is. We're in precalculus.
Well, we could say.
We can't do 8 minus. It happens. I was very stressed about my test last night in my class because I forgot to bring a scientific calculator.
Wait,
Because I was stressed
was
that I
your
was
final last night?
Yeah.
How did it go?
It was okay.
That was
You
like
got 8 plus plus?
I needed a 72 to get A in the class, and I think I got a 72.
I thought you did like a 30 something.
I needed a 32 to get a B in the class, 72 to get A in the class.
What do you think you got?
I don't know. I think I got enough to get an A. The 50% computation, and I'm pretty sure I got all the computations right. So that's 50. And then 50% proofs. There were 6 proofs. 2 I'm 100% confident on.
Oh, that's not a good.
2 I'm 100% not confident on, but I made some stuff up. And the lowest he gives you, if you write anything down, he gives you a 2 out of 10. So, let's see, if they're each worth 10 points, then that would be 24 right there. And so then, but then he takes 50% of 60. It's, too much math.
It's college. You wouldn't understand. It's college.
Then there were 2 proofs that I was okay on. So I think maybe I got 5s on those. And he's probably going to curve it. So
That sounds like.
I feel confident I got at least a 72 with the curve.
Right. Curves sound nice. They do. What's a curve? Yeah, they don't curve in college.
I have curved stuff in here. And in college, I never got to retake a test, kids. So. Oh, look how nice this one is.
4. I said 4. You said radius equals, and I said 4.
X squared plus y squared equals r squared, so I agree that r equals 4. Gross. Continue.
Yeah, it's kind of right over there.
What's the center?
0. And O.
How do you graph a circle?
You.
Draw radius is 4 units away. So vertical and horizontal, you can go a distance of 4 in each direction, vertically and horizontally. And then they tend to kind of look like ovals, but you just do the best you can. Not bad.
Not bad.
Until you graph ellipses, they look like footballs. When you graph them, they tend to. Okay, that was pretty easy. Let's do hard one.
Still graphing the circle?
What about a tangent line? If you take calculus next year, we're going to talk a lot about tangent lines, but the definition of a tangent line you learned back in geometry is a line that touches a circle in exactly one point, right? So we say that this is tangent to the circle because it really only touches it right there. It kind of looks like it's really close to it otherwise, but it touches it in one point. If you have a line that touches a circle in 2 points, you know, that's called a secant line.
What happened to the threes and a cosecant?
How could you draw a line that touches in 3 points? A line.
Like a parabola.
But that wouldn't be a line. A parabola is a curve.
And a math definition is not a line, but it's
Tangent, secant, that's all we got. This is tangent.
okay. Well, why do we have sine and cosine?
I know, isn't that weird? Tangent, secant, but it's really not trig. Oh my gosh, my brain hurts. Okay, let's do a problem. You know that definition to do this problem. Write an equation for a circle with the center at 3, 5 that is tangent to the y-axis. I put a graph there for you because I thought it might be helpful. I wasn't being sarcastic. I was just... The center is at 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If it can only touch the y-axis in one point, it has to touch in only one point. The radius can only be one thing. If it was more than 3, right? So like if you went more than 3, that's going to touch the y-axis in more than one point. If you went less than 3, it's not going to touch the y-axis at all, so it's not tangent. So being tangent lets you know how far away it has to be. So that means that the radius has to be 3. Which means now that's a pretty easy equation to write, right? X minus 3 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals 9. I will take a point off. I'm not lying. Try me. Good to go? This is like geometry. You do this in geometry. See how long ago that was.
My circle's wrong.
Remember that tomorrow when I teach you parabolas in a new way. Okay, here's the other thing I'm going to make you do with every single conic section. If I give it to you looking like this, I want you to be able to put it in standard form so then that you could graph it or find the center and the radius. Which means if there are things that are not squared, x's or y's, you're going to have to put them with the x's. So I can rewrite this as x squared plus 6x. I'm going to leave a little space. And then I'm going to put plus y squared. And I'm going to kick that 7 over to the other side if you're okay with that. Why would I do such a thing? I want x plus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Someone already said it. But what do I do to take something like this and turn it into a perfect square? Complete the square. So if you have an x to the first power or a y to the first power, you're going to have to complete the square. Maybe more than once, right? If there was a y here also, you would have to complete the square for both the x and the y. And just remember, whatever you put over here, you have to keep it balanced and put it over here as well. So remember, to complete the square, you take half of could then ask you to graph it or find the center and the radius, or I might just ask you to put it in standard form. And at the end of this chapter, we're going to talk about how do you know it's a circle by just looking at this. But we could say now, what would the center of this be? -3, 0, right? And then the radius is 4.
So, to complete a square, you take out the 6 for the bottom, you do the x plus 3, you take out the 6. Then you really have to write out this step with the 9 if you don't use the 9.
You just have to make sure you add the 9 on the other side, right? Because if
Yeah.
you just skip that step, like I always write it out because it helps me keep the other side balanced.
Okay.
But because it's okay if you don't, as long as you know that you're getting 16 on the other side. Because if you forget to add 9 to the other side, then you're going to have the wrong equation. But you're right, you don't really need that to get the 3. So if you graph this -3, 0, then a radius of 4, bottom of my circle is bigger than the top of my circle. Questions about completing the square? I think I have one more. Oh look, you do this one.
I
It's
was
an X
really
and a Y.
confused because the last one I started working on was she was 6x.
Group your X's together and your Y's together, move the 5 to the other side, and you're going to complete the square twice. So I'm going to let you have a head start. And we have a worksheet for homework today. How about that? Because guess what? Your book doesn't even talk about circles because they just expect that you remember everything about circles. So guess what I'm giving you? An Algebra 2 worksheet today. A worksheet. What? I know. Kind of a good little review of completing the square, but these work out pretty nice. Some of the other
When did you do that?
by using it quietly, like a ninja.
I wouldn't know for it. See you zero.
You didn't even know I used it.
But
Did you get this?
yes.
Questions on where you got this? The big mistake is people forget to add the numbers to the other side. If you ever get a negative number as your radius, it probably means you didn't add to the other side. So my center here would be 2, -4. And my radius would be 5. Sometimes you might get an ugly number for your radius. Like let's say you ended up with 17 here, then your radius would be the square root of 17. If you had to graph that, you just do the best you can, like just whatever the decimal is there, and go in between the two whole numbers, so don't stress a whole lot about that. Mr. McClure used to draw circles on the board ahead of time because he was so worried about making circles that weren't circular. I just go with it. Where is the worksheet that I made you?
Probably in the trash. Mr. Love probably.
Mr. Love probably took it.
Oh, what is that?
I really am not gonna lie, I came in this morning and logged in my computer 3 times and I kept saying wrong username and password and I was like, did you change my username?
Oh, when you changed yours.
Well, because I left early yesterday, so my computer was just logged in still.
That would have been so funny.
And so I was and 12 are you writing the equation. There is, oh, I didn't even give you one for diameter, but that's okay. And then 13 through 18 are graphing. Notice that most of those are already in the right form. 18 is the only one that's not, that you have to complete the square on. So that's a pretty, you can tell this is an algebra 2 worksheet. It's so easy.